Thank you, Professor Mohan, for taking this time to participate in my podcast. Would you briefly introduce yourself to our audience?
Sure. So I am Arvind Mohan. I am currently a professor here in the Department of Computer Science, Allegheny College. I started here in year 2017, and I've been here almost 4 years now. And my research interest is in the field of big data and cloud computing, and I'm also teaching courses, a variety of courses from introductory level all the way to advanced level computer science courses here at Allegheny College. So that's a brief introduction about myself there, and it's great to give a talk here, this interview session to the audience. So thank you for giving me an opportunity to introduce myself.
Yeah, it's fine. So, um, Looking at Allegheny College, we see that a lot of students are choosing computer science, and every semester, every class is almost full. What do you suggest undergraduate computer students to do in their free time? And what languages should they learn before entering the workforce?
Very good question. Computer science is such a vast field, and there's so many languages, programming languages that keep coming, right? So, in the last 2 decades itself, one could see that there's a repository of new programming languages that shows up in the market, and we would need to be constantly updating ourselves, and that's one of the challenge that both the learner in computer science and the faculty member would have to constantly update our knowledge in the field of computer science. So I would suggest the new learners here who would like to take up computer science education to have that positive mindset rather having that focus on learning just one language. I would suggest that we have that positive mindset to explore new challenges and to take up new challenges and to learn these different languages. So one language that I would strongly suggest a learner to try out in computer science would be Python, which is the introductory language that we teach in computer science. Later, one could also learn languages such as C, which is taught in Allegheny College Computer Science Department in a class such as 200 Computer Organization. And also there are courses such as 201, which is a programming language course, where we go over and talk about multiple languages such as C++, Java, JavaScript, to name a few.
Online resource to learn those languages?
Very good question again. And I think these are some really good questions. So for a learner, um, in Python, you can use websites such as Tutorial Point and Stack Overflow, which is a website that I often use to learn about errors. See, one thing that as a learner you would learn quickly while taking up your computer science courses here at Allegheny College, or if you're doing any side project yourself as well during a summertime and so on. One thing that is a key part of programming is to learn how to effectively solve the errors that you get while you're implementing a program. That's where you are able to learn programming from a 360-degree perspective, right? So, really, to solve these errors, one would need to apply debugging skills. Where exactly can I place my print statements so that I can debug the program and have the program run in a way that I like it to be run is a critical part of programming. And programming is about you talking to your computer and computer replying back to you. And when you use any other language, such as English or German or French or whatever language that you use to communicate between two people, the communication happens one at a time, one person at a time. Somebody would communicate, Bob would communicate to Alice, and Alice communicates back to Bob. But in a computer programming, the computers can only communicate through errors, right? So we need to understand the computer, what errors that they are communicating. And websites such as Stack Overflow is perfect because you can see and learn from others in the community who had experienced a similar error message, and then we can learn it from them how they had solved it, and then use that similar skill. We can use a similar methodology, I should say, to solve our errors.
I see.
So to recap, I strongly recommend websites such as Tutorial Point, W3 Schools would be other website if you're trying to learn JavaScript and other languages, Python, Java, and so on. And also Stack Overflow would be my top recommendation when you are actually programming using a language of your choice.
All right, I see. Good recommendations. So, computer science engineers constantly deal with failures, right? Errors and little mistakes like that in their codes. So, what is your opinion on failure? Do you think it's a good thing in computer science field? And like personally, how does failures affect you?
Well, I can, as I mentioned earlier to the previous question, oftentimes when you are communicating with a computer, the computer can only communicate using errors back to you. And when you find those errors, it looks like Alice is kind of yelling at you at Bob, and Bob doesn't like that. So that's something can be frustrating when computers are returning back errors rather than returning the actual output. But also, one should take this up as a from a positive standpoint is that as a programmer or a computer science professional, we are trying to take up a career on that, right? So we are going to have a good 30, 40 years a career out of this computer science field. And the person that we work with very closely is our laptop or our PC there. That's the guy that we work with very closely. Oftentimes, we find ourselves the entire day, except the sleeping time, we're having this laptop with us right next to us and trying to do programming and developing software projects. So we need to understand, although that it's frustrating initially, but with time, we will understand how these computers are communicating to us. When they are providing errors, we know exactly how to fix the errors, and we know how to really tame them up as a pet for us, let's say. In this way, we can work with that computer and make sure that computer is providing us the correct output that our boss would like to see, right? So clearly, it is frustrating initially as a learner for you to work with computers and building software projects and implementation. But with that positive attitude, that's the part that is more important, the positive attitude, right? So with that positive attitude with time, if you're working with the programming for 4 years, 5 years down the lane, then things will get much easier. You know exactly how to work with your computer because you are able to better communicate with your computer. It's like a relationship, like any other relationship. With time, you invest the time to learn that individual better. In this case, it's your computer, and you can program better with time, and that will resolve that issue with that frustration. Initially, it would be frustrating, but with time, you will have a very good time to work with computers.
All right, I see. So, I would like to go into a different, I would like to ask a different type of questions. So, after one after a computer science student successfully graduating their undergraduate college, what should they expect after getting their degrees? Like, what are the options and what do you recommend them to do?
Well, there is a variety of things that a computer science person who, an individual who learned computer science and got a computer science degree, there's a variety of things that one could do, right? So, firstly, if they would like to go and apply for a job, they could apply for jobs in three tiers. What I call that, I classify the job market into three tiers. Tier one, I'm going to talk about companies such as Microsoft, Google, Intel, Facebook, and so on. So these are the top tier companies, which oftentimes they are looking for problem solvers than coders. There is a difference between a problem solver and coder. Here in computer science department, we always try to give the opportunity for our students to learn the difference there between problem solving and coding. And we have classes such as introductory classes such as 101 and 100, where we get into the coding part of it. But later we are talking about problem solving. So in tier one companies such as Google, Microsoft, or Facebook, for that matter, they're looking for problem solvers. So we could keep that in mind while we are educating ourselves here and getting our degree in computer science based on our interest to go and pursue the tier one company. And tier two companies such as Bank of America, JP Morgan Chase, or Kaiser Permanente, a healthcare company, Blue Cross Blue Shield, these are all tier two companies where they're looking more for a coder and not so much about problem solver. Of course, you need to solve problems that is more valued, but oftentimes they are not that picky when it comes to the problem solving skills, and one could use coding skills, sharpen coding skills, and have a career in that tier two company that we talked about. In tier three companies, small scale companies, there are a lot of small scale companies. For example, in Meadville area, we have a small scale company, and the small scale companies in Grove City, Erie, for example. In those small scale companies, they're not mainly focusing on one of those two things, like the problem solver or coder. They're not picky on that. They give you the complete freedom to learn what you want, right? So based on their projects that they are getting in a small size company, you have more flexibility, really, right? So these are three different avenues if one want to pursue the direction of applying for a job there per se. However, there's also another alternative approach, a different track than one could take to go into graduate school and then get some advanced knowledge in academia. And later, after graduate school, only sky is the limit. You could continue working in academia, in a teaching line, and do academic research, or you could also apply for a job and get into tier one much more easier path if you want to get into tier one companies. If you do a graduate school degree, it will also slightly maximize your chances to get into tier one with a graduate degree based on interacting with some of my colleagues. So these are the different options then really for a computer science learner and a degree holder to get into the next steps of their future when it comes to the career in computer science.
Okay, I see. So you mentioned that tier one companies are looking for mostly problem solvers. So I would like to ask about, like, how do you develop yourself as a good problem solver, and do you have any online resources that can help with that?
Very good question. So for a problem solver, we oftentimes in a class like 101, when we are teaching the data structures, we provide opportunity for our students to go a little bit in detail and implement data structures. We ask that we provide the opportunity and ask the right questions from to our class members and give these students the opportunity to think through data structure. So data structure is the core part of computer science. When we say problem solving, we are talking about how effectively can one create a data structure so that this problem can be solved faster in a time efficient way.